Hi there. So, welcome to another video podcast of Humosakel Show. Today we have a very interesting interviewee. His name is Ariff Hew. He is one of the first and few Malaysian MBTI certified practitioners. He is currently undergoing the prestigious program in Singapore, and we have him here today with us. Now, I'm sure that some of you guys have heard of the MBTI personality type. So if you haven't taken your MBTI personality test, go and find your own. Just Google it and do the test. But it's a very good tool, personally, for me in finding out about, in general about someone's personality. But today we're going to go much more in depth. So Arif, thanks for coming to the show. All right. So Arif,
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ariff. I am a MBTI certified practitioner and a transformational life coach with Reconnect Recharge. That's my company. I'm really passionate about people connecting with themselves and with each other, and that's what we're all about at Reconnect Recharge. We offer counseling, we offer coaching, but we also do team building as well as trainings. We're venturing into retreats. Well, we've done retreats in the past, but we're re-venturing into it, and we're also creating a card game that helps people to connect with one another in a meaningful manner.
So about MBTI, for those who don't know about MBTI, can you tell us a little bit about it? And then MBTI personality coaching, that's a whole new thing I've never heard of before. So yeah, tell us about it.
Sure. So a bit more about MBTI. There's a couple of things I have to clarify. First of all, it's a personality assessment. It's not a test. Yeah, it's a very important distinction there. So MBTI, it's actually based on Carl Jung's personality type theory, I believe. And it's a very simple but meaningful theory. And it's very simple, actually. The idea is that at any given point of time, every single human being has two equally valid or opposite ways of approaching a specific thing. So, for example, extrovert versus introvert. You can either extrovert, which means direct your energy externally, or introvert, which means direct your energy internally. Right? You can't do both. You can't be showing it outwards and inwards at the same time. And his theory essentially says that humans have a preference to which one they use. And it's as simple as writing with your right hand or your left hand. You have a preferred hand. It's not that you can't use one or the other, and oftentimes we do use all 16. It's just that everyone has an innate preference. And understanding this innate preference allows us to have a deeper understanding of how we operate. So the theory was further refined by Isabella Myers and her daughter, and that's why it's Myers-Briggs, essentially. They took his base theory and added on the fourth letter to make it more wholesome. There's over 70 years of research, over 10,000 research papers done on it, and is used by a lot of people around the world to have a deeper understanding of themselves.
Okay, so MBTI personality coaching, how did you even get into it, and what is it about actually? Like, how does it work?
The way I use MBTI in my coaching, actually, when it comes to one-to-one, it's when the client wants to learn more about themselves and how they operate. It gives the clients and me a common language to speak. What does it mean when I say E? What does it mean when I say I? How do you notice that these traits are coming out? I want to preface this by saying there's no better trait, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just that some people have expressions that are helpful to them and expressions that are of a hindrance to them. Let's put it that way, right? Either it serves you or it does not serve you. So by using MBTI, I can give them a deeper I give them like a scaffolding for them to really understand themselves as well as their lives and how they approach other people differently. It's actually very powerful with teams, especially because oftentimes miscommunication happens when one person is coming from one perspective and the other person is coming from the other perspective.
And how did you get into this? And how does even one become a certified MBTI personality coaching? Like, it's the first time I heard about it, and pretty interesting actually.
Okay, so actually, it's very serendipitous. Towards the end of last year, my father passed away in July last year, and I was
Sorry to hear about that.
And I wanted to upskill myself, and I wanted to get a couple of certifications. A really good friend of mine is an MBTI certified coach or practitioner in Malaysia, and I asked him how is the program and how is the tool, and he mentioned that it was a really good program and it's a really good tool. So I decided, okay, I took a leap of faith and I went for it. Full disclosure, before that I was a non-believer of it, but I was like, okay, I trust this friend of mine. He's a really good friend of mine, and I know he has substance and all these things. So I went for the program, and it was a fantastic program. Mr. Robin Robbins, that's his real name, was my trainer. He's the director of the company in Singapore. And he brought us through this journey to really understand ourselves a little better and understand the whole entire thing in a meaningful manner, I would say. And I really was impressed at how robust the tool was actually. Something for every level. Like how deep you want to go and how shallow you want to go. There is value to be had in all the different levels. And that was something that I really appreciated about the tool. Yeah.
How long was the course? Was it here in Malaysia?
I flew down to Singapore for the course as a 4-day course, but there was a lot of homework in between and a lot of homework afterwards.
Tell us a little about the clients, the people that you meet. You mentioned that you do it for individuals as well as for organizations, right?
Yes.
So let's maybe start with the organizations, perhaps.
Sure. So with organizations, typically it's when we do team building for teams, we get them to come to the back. I'll go get out of Kuala Lumpur, go to a very relaxed location and learn more about their own MBTI and how that interacts with each other and how that interacts between departments. Oftentimes we get people who are clashing with one another. And a lot of times, I would argue that a lot of times people are not mean-spirited when there are clashes at work. It's not that the person really hates you, thus they're saying this particular thing, or your manager is really bad, thus they're saying this particular thing. Generally speaking, I believe that people have good intentions when it comes to interacting with one another. Sometimes those intentions are lost in translation. And what we do with teams is we say, hey, you're an E, I'm an I, here are some areas of conflict. So I'll give you a very simple one within E and I. The way E's process is by talking. E's extrovert, right? So as they're talking, they're thinking. And then when two E's come together and are brainstorming, they're just thinking out loud. I's, on the other hand, introverts, look inwards. So they think before they talk. And oftentimes that looks like this. So when an E asks an I, so what do you think? And an I is just thinking. And then the E's like, what do you think? What do you think? And then the I's are like, let me think. If you want me to know, if you want to know what I think, let me think. So that's a conflict that happens very regularly.
How long does it take for them to process? Like, how can the extrovert introvert in that particular scenario resolve the clash then?
Oh, it's as simple as the introvert saying, could you give me some time to think? And the extrovert being, how long do you need, for example? Asking. It's just a bit more communication. So by understanding that, for example, if you're an introvert and I'm an extrovert, when I ask you this question, if I know that you're an introvert, I'm a bit more patient. Okay, Mush is an introvert, so he takes time to think. So give him the time. If you need this answer very fast, then it's about communicating. Can you give me the answer within 10 seconds, for example? I know it sounds a bit ridiculous, but it's these kind of little nuances that really help smoothen that flow. And that is the power of MBTI in teams.
Normally, when you do this coachings for companies, is it by department or is it like the whole organization?
It really depends on what our clients hire us for. It's very powerful in a departmental level because then the amount of people are smaller and we can go really deep, right? Then we can have those departments really understand what is the source of the conflicts. And this is not just E versus I, it's all the letters, E versus I, S versus N, T versus F, and J versus P. At every single point, because they're both equally valid but opposite ways of approaching the same thing, clashes may happen.
So maybe you can run us through with one of the companies you've done before. You can disclose or not disclose the company name is fine. And what other companies you've worked with before as well, that'll be great. What are the exercises that you went through and how did it improve the departmental efficiency or, I don't know, workforce?
It's very hard for us to say how it helped the department, how it improved the efficiency because we don't have the metrics, right? We don't go into the company and be like, hey, are you guys 30% more efficient now? We don't really do that kind of follow-up. And I'm unable to disclose our clients due to the nature of our business, let's put it that way. However, we have had a couple of clients where by the time they left the program and then of course ask them what is the most significant thing for you, and following up with the contact that brought me into the company afterwards, they did mention that, hey, people do seem a bit more happy, more settled. They seem closer. At the end of the day, unless we are brought into a department to really do a full-on MBTI like breakdown, including one-to-one coaching, including reconfiguring the team dynamics, for example, the effects are minimal but significant. Small but significant, I would say. Yeah.
Of course, there's always conflicts between the companies or between the labor force, between employees and the bosses and whatnot. So could you give an example or a story, a personal story, or what has been the most memorable story of a particular client that you've had?
About conflicts, is it specifically?
Conflicts, or maybe after the whole training, they go to you and, hey, Ariff, you know what? I've always had problems with this stuff, this stuff. But after this session, we understand, and now our workflow is better. We are much more at peace. I don't know. Is there any stories like that?
Unfortunately, at the moment, no. With MBTI and the team building and things like that, we're relatively new in the market. So we've run about 4 or 5 only. So at the moment, I don't have any stories like that, no.
Okay. Then normally, what do they say though after the one of the coaching programs?
So after a coaching program, so I'll speak with my individual clients then sometimes. A lot of the times they start noticing their colleagues or their boss and how they're operating, and then they start noticing themselves and how they react. The power of MBTI is it gives people a framework to think before they react, to notice before they react. So in ontological coaching, which is the other program I'm doing, the philosophy is very simple. An event is neither good nor bad. An event is just an event. It just happens. It's dependent on what lens we view it to, the observer that we are, to interpret whether it is good or bad. And power and ability to shift happens between interpretation and action when you slow down that gap. With MBTI, and this is especially when I work with a client, right? They start noticing how their boss is approaching them. So this is a very common thing. My client is an F, so feeling, and their boss is a T, thinking. The most basic breakdown between the two is T is very result oriented. They're very outcome driven. Okay, this is the outcome, and thus they're very sharp with it. F are more people oriented. They're more process driven, let's put it that way. And so the clash becomes, the boss would be like, okay, this is good, and not praise the employee, for example. No, you didn't do a good job about this, you did a good job about that. That's it. Very matter of fact, very straightforward. But the F employee would be like, I want the praise, I want the value. So I can give you a personal example, actually. So my partner is a T and I'm an F, right? And one day it was after a night out and everything, and the next day lunch for her. And I was just like, oh, I'm very tired. And then I messed up the rice a little. I added a bit too much water. And then afterwards, I was just like, okay, somehow I always mess up the rice. And then she was like, how did you mess up the rice? It's idiot proof. And I'm just like, and it's just, no, I don't mean it that way. No. Oh. I was laughing about it, and I was laughing about it then because even though I felt a little hurt, that she was like, I'm cooking for you after everything. I know she didn't mean it that way because she's just coming from her tea brain, essentially. It's going like, hey, the outcome is the rice is too mushy, and it's like, she doesn't understand how someone could mess it up. But for me, it's just like all the effort I put in. So effort versus results.
I see.
Yeah.
What is your personality type?
I am an ENFP.
ENFP.
Yeah, sure. E is extroverted. So I gain and receive energy from extroverting, which means talking to people, interacting with the world. I do want to note that there is a distinction between the typical understanding of E and F in all the letters compared to the actual wording. So extrovert or introvert doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a sociable person or I'm a non-sociable person. It has nothing to do with social dynamics. It just talks about where do I direct and receive energy, which way I'm more comfortable directing and receiving energy. So if I'm an introvert, I'm more comfortable directing and receiving energy internally, and extrovert is externally. So E, extroverted. N, intuition versus S. Intuition versus sensing. It just means that I'm a more abstract individual. I'm a more of a big picture person. Sensing is more zoomed in. Intuition is more zoomed out. F, feeling versus thinking. Again, effort versus results. F is more effort. T is more results. F's think, T's feel. It's
Interesting. Okay.
J versus P is how you approach the outside world. So J's are people who like to come to closure. They like to make decisions and generally speaking are more organized. P's like to wait to the very last minute to make a decision because they want to be able to make the best decision.
So we were talking about the corporate clients and now maybe the individual ones that
Sure.
you've met. How many have you, maybe not how many, but who are these people normally who come to you, and what generally are they looking for when they come to you?
My individual clients don't necessarily come to me for MBTI. So I will say MBTI is a tool I utilize, but it's not the only tool in my toolbox.
Okay.
It's a very specific tool that I pull out depending on what a client wants. And typically speaking, it's for teams and some individuals who are like, I'm really interested in this. I want to know more and I want to utilize this tool. My clients come to me to transform their lives. I'm a transformational life coach. And what I really do is I help my clients gain a sense of purpose and happiness in their life, essentially.
So maybe you could tell us of what has been the most memorable client so far.
The most memorable client. So I had this one client. I think she's one of my favorite clients because of just the story. She was this young girl. She was just about to graduate university, and she lived a very sheltered life. She was very attached to her mother, and she couldn't drive, she couldn't cook, she really didn't have any other way of. She was afraid of going out of her house. Let's put it that way. And it was really interesting because when I met her, and I was just like, this girl seemed very full of life. I wonder what's going on. And it was actually because of the cultural nuances, right? She grew up as a third culture kid. She grew up with the internet and reading a lot and things like that. So she had like big dreams and ideas, aspirations, things like that. However, her family was a very traditionally Chinese family. And her family was sharing with her the message that you have to be careful because once you graduate, once you start working, things are going to get out. It's going to get harder for you. You got to make sure you be careful. You got to be careful. So she became very afraid of stepping out of a house. She became very afraid of growing up, essentially. When I worked with her, I asked her, what do you actually want? Why are you here with me? Why are you here in this session? And she said, I want to be independent. I said, okay, what does independent mean to you? She said, I want to be able to drive. I want to be able to cook. I want to be able to do that. Okay. So over the course of a year, I coached her through all these little things, helping her overcome her fears, helping her kind of learn life skills essentially. And after a year, just the transformation I saw from her not being afraid to turn on the gas stove and cook an egg. It took me 3 months to coach her to cook an egg. She became this beautiful young soul who was able to live her life and go out there and actually enjoy life and not be afraid of the world. I'm very happy for her.
How old is she, by the way?
I think this was a couple of years ago. So I think she's...
Did you apply the MBTI on her?
No, that time no MBTI yet. So MBTI is a fairly recent thing. Only at the end of last year that I got certified for MBTI lah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the stories that you've done so far, or MBTI related ones?
MBTI specifically.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't have a lot of MBTI specific one-to-one clients.
Okay.
It's very expensive. I would say actually the individual ones, the most valuable one is the 500 ringgit one actually. So I don't actually have a lot of MBTI stories because not a lot of clients, individual clients buy MBTI. Sebab it's very expensive. Yeah, typically it is done for corporates because of the price point lah, essentially.
How much would individual consultation cost?
First, just for the assessment alone, I would recommend there's like a 500 ringgit one essentially. So there's a couple of different assessments level and they give you different types of information and things like that depending on it. I wouldn't say effective lah, but I would say the most valuable one would be the top tier one lah, which is about 500 ringgit per one. So because of that, I don't have that many clients that actually do MBTI because once they hear the price, they step back a little bit. It's a lot more prevalent to like the corporate market.
But let's say 99% of us, we will just do the free ones.
Yes.
Assuming we go with that, how much would the consultation cost then?
I have to say it has its problems. It's a slightly flawed product, let's put it that way. It will just be my coaching fees essentially, which is about 300 ringgit per hour per session.
And how can you use the MBTI coaching to help improve them? Is it in terms of finance, in the job, or with the love life, or with everything, or is it just a personality?
It really depends on what the person wants. So give me an example. What do you find valuable with MBTI for you personally? Yes.
I think if I were to go to you, it would be like, okay, I want to understand myself. What are the things I should and should not do, cannot do? Should I apply for this job? And should I go for this kind of girlfriend? How do I handle this kind of boss?
So the beautiful thing about MBTI is it doesn't actually measure your ability or capability. Just because you're an ENTP does not mean you're not suitable for this role or that role and things like that. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that, hey, this is how you may show up in this kind of situations. Especially during times of stress, we often fall back into what we're comfortable with, right? So when we're frantic and things like that, then if you're right-handed, you'll generally speaking reach for things with your right hand more. Right? When times are calm, times are good, times are easy, we use all 16. And we have to use all 16 in our lives to function as human beings, let's put it that way. So looking at your example of love life, for example, right? Okay, you're an ENTP, which means that you may want to find someone that balances you a little bit. Someone who's a J, for example, may help to round out your P. But at the same time, if you find someone who's also a P, it just means, okay, look out for the potentially not making any decisions. I have a friend, both he and his partner are Ps. And he's just, I have to make the decision to make sure that we schedule things and get things done. If I don't put my foot down and be like, okay, let's set at this stage, she'll be like, okay, and we'll just never go on the date. So it's about little blind spots that can help you. So if you say, okay, my boss is approaching me this way, blah, blah, blah. First thing I ask is, do you know your boss's MBTI officially, for example? And if the answer is no, then okay, tell me what about it like irks you.
I see.
Yeah. What about the way your boss operates causes you trouble? And then it's okay. Let's say, I'm going to throw that question to you. So, what was your...
Oh yeah, my boss. I had a boss before that is very micromanaging, and he was a very anxious person. So I would feel like I had to deliver a lot of things. I felt very stressed out because every day, and he was quite of an emotional person as well. I always preferred if I could have a male boss because to me they're a little bit more logical than the female bosses, and yeah, so that's one of the things I always I found a little bit about myself when working with superiors.
So you see, that's your T coming out already. See, you're like, okay, because you may not be sure exactly like why this person is coming from this particular angle. You're like, why aren't you letting me deliver my outcome? E, N, T, and P, correct? So you are a person who's extroverted. You're more big picture, things to think, but you may not be as, what's the word, organized.
I see.
So perhaps your boss was a J boss. And then when they saw you not being organized, they're like, oh my God, I need to make sure that this person is organized. But then because you're outcome driven and you're like, wait a minute, my outcome's okay, what?
True.
I get there, it's my own way.
True,
yeah.
yeah.
So maybe your boss is just like, what is this chaos?
Yeah. That's exactly what she said.
Yeah, see?
She's a very supremely organized person. To me,
Yeah.
because it takes so much time just to organize things
Yeah.
sometimes.
So
I see.
if, for example, we did her MBTI and your MBTI, we brought you guys together to a room and showcased the difference,
Okay.
it'll help her understand where you're coming from and help you understand where she's coming from.
Interesting.
And then it's just about, okay, so how can you come together to create a workflow or a system to ease her concerns together? When she's feeling anxious about the whole workflow and things like that, maybe you could have a chat with her and be like, okay, this is my system and this is why everything's on time. So maybe it's checkpoints rather than looking at the overall thing, right? Or it could be a bit more structured, or I don't know. It really depends on what you both, for example.
Okay. So like in terms of the love life.
Yeah.
So I'm an INTP. My girlfriend is INTJ.
So yeah, you're saying
So in terms of the love life, because I also, when I was dating before this, I would always ask for their MBTI. If they don't know about it, ask them to do the free test. And then we would just chat GPT. Okay, I'm ENTP. The other person is ISFP. Are we compatible or not? Most of the time it's not. So my girlfriend now, who I'm happily with, she's an INTJ, which I understand is a perfect match for ENTP, correct? Like the second and third letter has to be the same, only the first and last letter has to be different or something.
You can have a very beautiful relationship with completely opposite letters. It does help a little bit when you guys have complementary letters because then it's, oh, okay, balance each other out, but it comes with its own challenges. So INTJ, ENTP, right? INTJ, ENTP, your N's are matching very well. So both of you speak the same language, see the same things, right? So because the second letter is very much, it's about how you take in information. So when you look at a picture, ABC, when she looks at a picture, she'll see ABC as well. So you see things in a similar manner, which helps. INTJ, ENTP. So the T's, then even better lah. You both speak exactly the same language. You both communicate in exactly the same way.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But the E and the is extrovert. So I'm more extroverted. She's introverted.
Yeah.
I'm more perceptive.
So judging and perceiving, and I have to make a disclaimer of it doesn't mean one is a judgmental person and the other person is a perceiving person. That may be where conflict arises. It means that you are probably a very organized individual. And sometimes organization drives you crazy. Like, why can't we just organize things this way? And then like, why? And just get everything nicely done. You're just like, no, this is the way. I have my own way of doing things. Why can't you be more flexible with the way you are? Like, yeah, that could be an area of conflict.
Okay.
Yes.
And is it true that like an extroverted person should also be an extroverted person? Introvert with an introvert?
Not necessarily.
Or is it better for them to be like reversed?
I really will say there's no better or worse because it really depends on a lot of other factors. But introverts and extroverts can be together lah. Because when someone's introverted, it doesn't mean that they don't like to talk to people. It just means they get a bit more drained by extroverting, by talking to a lot of people. So let me ask you this. You probably have a group of friends that you love hanging out with and you enjoy like spending time with them. Am I correct? Yes or no?
Come here, yeah. Yeah, just speak here then. Speak here.
So you probably have a group of friends that you enjoy spending time with and like you find, yeah, you enjoy spending time with.
For now, I don't like to hang out with them anymore. I just want to find a new friend.
Yeah.
So introverts have friends as well. It's just that the common misconceptions are that introverts are people that are not sociable individuals. Introverts can be very sociable as well. It's just that they find it more draining compared to extroverts. But if it's with a close group of friends, sometimes introverts can really enjoy themselves and really enjoy hanging out with them. It's just that meeting new people sometimes is a bit like, yeah.
I see. So, what are some common misconceptions about MBTI?
One of the common misconceptions is it tells you your personality. Like,
Oh, it does.
it's not your personality. It is a way of operating. It is your preferences. Yeah, that I would say that's a thing. It informs your personality. It's a part of your personality, I would say, but it's not your entire personality. That's why
see.
I, as an ENFP, and another person as an ENFP, we may live very different lives because we have different ways of expressing each of the letter. Yeah.
And for the majority of people who I've spoken to about MBTI, they don't know the name, they don't know the letters.
Yes.
Then they go back to the website 16personalities.com. It's actually just a nickname for the letters, right?
Yes.
So is it true that okay, for me, I'm the debater, I should be a lawyer or MP or a politician, for example?
No. And this is what I was saying earlier, where 16 personalities is a little flawed. What 16 personalities did great is the fact that it made it MBTI very accessible. So that everyone in the public now knows what MBTI is essentially. They have a rough understanding of what their MBTI is. What the flawed part about it is that entire thing where you're like, okay, I'm a debater, I'm a protagonist, I'm this, I am that. It was a very fun and interesting and simple way to summarize your letters. But again, at the end of the day, MBTI does not measure ability. So my business partner, she is an ENFP, just same like me. So if you look at the letters, right, ENFP, so she's extroverted, she's more abstract thinking, she's someone who cares more about the people, and then she's someone who's not as organized, let's put it that way, who takes decisions at the last minute, for example. You don't really associate that with lawyers who are a bit more straight, who are a bit more clear cut. They're like, okay, A is A, B is B, who are zoomed into details like this word means this. And yet she's a mighty fine lawyer. It's to show that your four letters, whatever they may be, does not inform your ability or capability. That's what I've been saying. That's the quick misconception. Just because you're a debater, right, doesn't mean that you should be a lawyer, a politician, or anything like that. No. But it does mean that you will be more attracted to these positions, for example.
I see.
So as an ENFP, I'm a coach and a trainer, and it fits my personality type because I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy understanding people's perspectives and things like that, like a big giant puzzle. I enjoy like helping people, and I enjoy waiting to the last minute to come to conclusions. Yeah, it's just, okay, is this person like this, for example? If I say yes, then I'm like, is this person really like this? So that's where my P kind of helps. And I get to see and I get to bring together things.
I see. And how different it is then from astrology, for example? Because everyone knows if they're Aquarius or Gemini or if they're Monkey and what was it?
Yes.
But, yeah.
So I would-
Is MBTI more accurate?
Again, at the end of the day, it's evidence-based, right? There's over 10,000 research papers written about MBTI, one. Number two, it is a preference. The theory states that your preference is essentially set at one point of time. So the misconception is people have us also like that, hey, my MBTI changes over time. Yeah, it doesn't actually. So once you reach a certain stage in life, once you have formed who you are as a person, then your MBTI gets set. You essentially have a preference, is it left hand or right hand? At one point of time, becomes your dominant hand. And you're just like, what, does your left hand, your right hand become your dominant hand? You're not quite sure, right? It just one day, it's just like, okay, yeah, this is my dominant hand. It's similarly. Why it changes sometimes for people is that as they mature, when they're taking the assessment, does their job demand that they use another side more? So we had an intern. She believed she's an N, and when she did assessment, she was an N. But she's like, actually, I flipped between N and S, and I actually flipped between F and T. But I was debriefing with her, and I was like, okay, can you tell me more about this? But that she realized, actually, I'm an S. And yeah, I'm a very strong S. And I was like, when did you do the assessment the first time? She was like, oh, actually, I was just kind of chilling at home, blah, blah, blah. Okay, when did you do this assessment the second time? She's like, oh, right after a session with my client. I was just curious. And I was like, you're a counselor, right? Yeah, counselors need to use a lot of N. Then she's like, oh, so the fact, right, stays on.
So she brought it out when needed lah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's say that we do the MBTI coaching session, we understand ourselves, so like maybe find a way to change our life. So like how changing can be very hard for people. What advice would you give to someone who feels stuck and is afraid to embrace that change?
So I feel like this steps beyond MBTI, but for my advice to people who's afraid of embracing change is to take it step by step. I think a lot of times we feel change is overwhelming, as people tend to look at change as this one massive thing that is coming and that is inevitable and that scares us because it helps us step into the unknown. Change is scary because we don't know what's on the other side, and that is the essence of fear in humanity. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. Death is scary because we don't know what's on the other side. Of course, pray, religion, this one, this one. But can anyone guarantee that this one? No, it's the greatest unknown. And it's very final. It's one step and then you can't go back.
How can someone cultivate the mindset of change, being open to change and changing about themselves? Yeah.
To cultivate the mindset of being open to change is simply about practice and focus on one step at a time. Again, oftentimes it seems overwhelming because we want to change this, you need to change that, need to change. No, it's okay. You have time one actually. Just focus on one aspect and have faith that when you let go of something, you open up space in your life for something new to come in. At the end of the day, we're afraid because we're like, oh, I'm attached to this. I want to be happy. I used to be happy like this. And we hold on to it. But change comes no matter what. That is an inevitability in life, is change.
For you yourself, how has learning about MBTI and being a personality coach in MBTI as well, how has that impacted your life?
How has becoming a coach and learning MBTI impacted my life? I think it's helped me in so many different ways. So relationship with my partner, for example, has benefited significantly. I think my ability to really make a difference with teams has shifted significantly. I think my understanding of what can I do when I'm stressed, for example, has shifted significantly. And I think my relationship with people in general, it just helped me be a bit more patient when I find someone a bit more grating, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe it's this trait acting up. Okay, that's fine.
For those who are unfamiliar with MBTI, how can understanding their personality be a tool for growth?
How can I understand your personality for growth?
Personal growth.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it helps us see our blind spots. That's the most powerful thing. As someone, again, ENFP, when someone who is an ISTJ comes to me, my polar opposite, I can find it quite triggering. So it's okay. It's my polar opposite. But when I understand that this person is coming from that perspective, then I know, okay. And then it's about, okay, so what can I learn from this person? So personally, my S is one of my weaker spots, essentially. I'm not as good with details. So I know that I'm not so good at details, for example. Then before I send out a big email or before I send out a big project, I ask my business partner, who's an S, I'm like, hey, can you take a look? Just take a look first and help me see if there's anything I'm missing. Okay, this is wrong, that is wrong. Okay. And then it's about how, and then I ask them, how do you do it? And it's just, I just scan it one by one. I'm like, okay, Ariff. This is torture. This is absolute torture, but at the same time, it is important. Yeah.
So that's one of the ways that it can help someone with the personal growth, like seeing the blind spots. What if, let's say I'm an ENTP, I understand about myself, assuming I understand all about myself, and I find someone, a colleague or a boss that's the opposite of me or whatever. Do you recommend people going to their bosses or others like, hey, I'm an ENTP, to me, I would prefer if we work this way? And then try to ask them as well for the personality type? Is that or is that like very awkward conversation?
I think it's a very powerful conversation that we can have with our employers, our bosses, and things like that. So let's say you understand your type. Hey, I am an ENTP, like you said, right? And your boss is a ISFJ, your polar opposite. Your polar opposite. Then what can you do? Then it's about, okay, so what can I learn from this person? So personally, my S is one of my weaker spots. That's the most powerful thing. I think at the end of the day, it helps us see our blind spots. That's the most powerful thing. So if you can sit down with your boss and be like, hey, boss, this is my personality type, and I want to know your personality type. And it's just ISFG. It's like, oh, okay. Then when you both have an understanding of what each of the letters mean, then you can say, okay, maybe so this is why I act this way, and this is why you act this way, and this is how I perceive your actions, and this is how you perceive my actions. At the end of the day, both of you want to come together to achieve a common goal. I think every boss wants the employee to succeed in a way, because at the end of the day, when your employee succeeds, your -1 succeeds, you succeed, right? That's part of your KPI as well. So by having that conversation, it's a very powerful conversation. Then you can co-create your working relationship in a positive manner.
So, what has been the most surprising lesson you've learned in your journey as a coach so far?
The most surprising lesson now that at the end of the day, we're all just reflections of one another. There are many different times in life and in sessions where I'm coaching my coachee, and then I'm just like, hey, this kind of applies to what I'm going through right now. And I just need to take into account the things I'm saying to my coachee. And I feel very blessed at that moment to not only be able to help someone through their journey in life, but also be helped by that person.
And looking back, like what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say to my younger self, just be patient, slow down, and have faith. Because I think the most powerful lesson I've learned is to slow down. Because especially in this time where everything's so fast, right? We live in a world that just gets faster and faster. Slowing down has allowed me to really embrace all the wonderful things I need to embrace to be able to move forward further. I can go fast or I can go far.
I heard from our mutual friend that you used to be bullied back then. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that experience and how did you overcome that? And how did you take ownership of your life?
When I was in high school, I was bullied very heavily, I would say.
Like anything serious? Like really serious?
I wasn't like beaten up to a pulp and left by the street per se, but that was psychological. I was a bit of a troublemaker, so I was very easily misunderstood. And so my teachers treated me as such. The way I overcame it actually was forgiveness. It's to forgive myself for putting myself in that situation, forgive my teachers for not coming to me and helping me out, forgive the bullies for bullying me, because at the end of the day, they're all just humans, and they were just kids being kids, boys being boys. They didn't know any better. And the teachers, how teachers now, they have so many responsibilities and things like that. They're just human beings. They weren't out to get me because of malice. And even if they were, it's not my job to hold on to this anger, to that grief, to that hate. Because at the end of the day, when I held on to all those negative emotions, it didn't hurt them, it hurt me. So just forgiving them and letting go, because at the end of the day, they're just acting out their programming.
Before I forget, like MBTI, does it have any blind spots?
Does MBTI have any blind spots?
Yeah.
I would say yes and no. Full disclosure, there are other courses by the same company that specifically focus on coaching, that specifically focuses on capability and skills and things like that, and I have not taken those courses. So I only have this based understanding, which I find is most helpful for teams and organizations, as well as some individuals. I would say the blind spots is, again, it doesn't measure capability and ability, which some people that's what they're looking for. It gives you a foundational understanding of what you prefer. I prefer to grab things with my left hand, for example. And yeah, so I can't think of any blind spots other than the fact that it's for that specific purpose.
What are the most common limiting beliefs you've encountered so far with your clients, and how do you guide them toward overcoming those?
The most common limiting belief that I've encountered with my clients is the belief that they're not enough. And perpetuating that belief is the fear that they'll become egotistical.
When you have too much self-esteem and then it goes overboard. I see.
Because there's so many narcissists in the world. They say like, oh, look at this person, they're narcissists. And these narcissists become great big people. And then it turns out they're con artists and everyone's, oh, they're a narcissist. So people are afraid of being judged as narcissistic, as egotistical, as not talking bigger than their walk. So what most people do is they punch down. And it's not their fault, because we live in a society where we're taught from young, it's a school system, right? You punish the bad and you reward the good. But then the reward is just for goodness sake. It's just a token for goodness sake, right? You're doing good for sake of doing good. You're not actually doing it for the reward, because that would be bad, right? So internally, we end up punishing the bad, but we never reward the good, because the reward is the good job done, right? And what happens is it creates this cycle internally of people actually being mean to themselves and people being, yeah, very cruel to themselves, right? It's easier to be compassionate to others than it is to yourself.
So in these cases, then you will apply MBTI as a tool to also help them execute. Or no, you
No,
won't.
I would use the ontological coaching approach, essentially.
I see what and the difference being.
So with MBTI, it is your way of functioning, right?
Yeah.
It is your, okay, this is how I approach.
Yeah.
And it also says, hey, how you react to things under stress. But it doesn't say anything about your internal state of being.
Just a
bec-
blind spot then.
I would say it's the purpose of the tool. You can't have, if you have a tool that does everything, it does nothing.
Like a hammer can only be used to hammer nails.
Yeah, if a hammer is also a screwdriver, then
Okay, all right.
yeah.
All right. So you're saying so the difference between
Yes.
ontological and MBTI?
Ontological coaching is coaching that is about our way of being. So it's the OARBEL model. Essentially, our observer is all the actions that we can take is based on our observer, how we observe things, right? And depending on what we observe, we see our possible actions, and which leads to our possible results. Ontological coaching is about shifting your observer, which opens up new options for actions and gives you new results. And the way you shift your actions is by using your body, BEL, body, emotions, and linguistics. Yeah.
I think it's a whole different.
That's the one I primarily use for my coaching.
So can you share a personal limiting belief that you've had and how you worked through it with and without MBTI?
So actually, the example of being cruel to yourself is something that is very relevant to me as well. The way I work through it is by realizing that at the end of the day, I'm doing okay lah. I'm doing good. When you look at a piece of work that you produce, oftentimes you will look at all the flaws that you see. Letting go of the way I overcame that was just part of it is embracing the fact that, hey, I'm never going to be perfect. And this is good enough. How do I know it's good enough? Is it because 10,000 people tell me good enough? No. Because I put my heart and soul into it, and the results of it is something that people seem to enjoy. It impacts people in some shape or form. So it's recognizing my journey as well. Recognizing the fact that, okay, where did I come from? Where am I now? I'm not where I want to be at the end of the road, but that's okay because it's the journey, right? It's about taking it one step at a time, moving forward.
Speaking about journeys, like mastery of the self is a lifelong journey. And what are some of your key practices or beliefs or habits that has helped you along the path?
Okay. Taking deep breaths is one practice that I do that really helps. When I feel overwhelmed, when I feel like in a rush, I take a deep breath and I take it as slow as possible into my belly, filling up as much space as possible without forcing it to relax. It helps me slow down. Mastery over the self is about not letting the situation pull you. Whether it's your mood, whether it's an event, it's about not letting that particular situation dictate your actions, your reactions. Of course, when something bad happens, I feel a certain way. But do I let that feeling sit with me and linger all day long? It's going to affect everything I do for the rest of the day. Of course, that does happen sometimes because I am a human being after all, and it does happen to all of us. But sometimes I have this moment of awareness of, I don't want to give that event that power over me. So take a deep breath, let go, and just say, maybe the person is having a bad day. Maybe that person is thinking, or even one level deeper is to start observing myself. Like, okay, so why did I assume that person was out to get me? Why did I assume that this event is a negative thing? Why did I react that particular way? And then seeing what's there, and then being kind to it. Okay, it's because I'm in a rush. I want to get there. I don't want to be late for my meeting, for example. Say, okay, I understand that. But is it really that person's fault that I'm late for the meeting, or is it my fault? The answer is it's generally, of course, me. If I left earlier, blah, 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 all the excuses that we give on things like that. Then it's like, okay, so can we really control what time we get there? And the answer is no. So what can we really do? I can just be honest, arrive whatever time I arrive, and just be like, hey, I apologize for being late and wasting your time, for making you wait for me. And yeah, and just move on and try my level best to not repeat this mistake in the future. Keyword here is try my level best.
Is there anything else that you want to add about MBTI that we haven't covered yet?
I think that with MBTI specifically, it's a tool to help inform you of things. Don't hold on to it like it's the gospel truth about who you are.
And does it change over time? No? Or
No.
it's set?
But just because that's your preference doesn't mean you're bad at the other one. I had one client where we spent 3 hours debriefing where it's just like, because am I a J? Am I a P? And then eventually, because every part of her life is, but then when we talked about like certain things, she's just, but I'm very P here. Then we realized at the end of the day, actually, she is an ENFP as well, but she has a very strong F. She really cares about people. So every time she has anything to do with people, she exercises her J because that's how she learned to be efficient. Okay, this has to do with people. That means I have to be on the ball. I need to produce an excellent result for the person, which means I need to be structured. But you remove the people element from her, she is actually a P. She's just, I'm very happy being a P. Yeah.
Yes, I see.
The fact that you can exercise your other arm to the point where it's almost as strong or even just as strong as your preferred hand is not meant to limit you. It's meant to just help you have an understanding of what you prefer and how can you balance it out.
Personal question.
Go for it.
Let's say that I did the test and someone else did the test and turns out that they are the complete opposite of mine. Can we just, what the science says that we're going to not be happy with each other? Can we just go our own ways?
I'd say that's completely up to you. So I have to clarify it. It's an assessment, not a test. It's a very important distinction here. It's an assessment, not a test. But then my question is, why did you come together in the first place? Right? There must be something about that person that drew you into that person. And if you're able to overcome that differences, you would be unstoppable.
Okay.
You'd be completely unstoppable because you cover each other's blind spots beautifully. I am an ENFP. My partner is also an INTJ. Yeah, INTJ. Yeah, so similar. Yes. So she covers my blind spot beautifully. And what I like about her is how she compliments me is the fact that she helps me be a bit more grounded. And for me, I bring a lot of excitement into her life. By the end of the day, she has a very specific way of doing things, right? She likes A to be A, B to be B, C to be C, and this is how she rolls essentially. And this is her life. And for me, I'm just a bit like, let's go with the flow, see where this goes, and things like that. And she's helped me become a bit more organized, and I've helped her become less attached to ways of being, essentially.
Yes, okay. Okay, so I think that wraps up our session. Ariff, thank you so much for giving your insight into this. It's pretty cool. And for those who have always wondered about MBTI, go do your test and you can book him up. How can we reach out to you?
You can reach out to us at my company's website, so reconnectandrecharge.com. Book a session with me. Okay.